Welcome to JS Podcast, episode 3. Our first interstate guest today, and we got
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Dani, for flying from Perth just to be here for the podcast. All right, let's get into it. So, Dani, tell us a little bit about yourself, about your fighting career, and which gym you're from.
Okay, so my name's Dani. I've had 27 fights and I'm from Riddler's Gym in Perth. Yeah.
Awesome. So, yep. Okay. A lot of people know that you're fighters, so we're just going to dig into our questions.
Sounds good.
So, to me, Dani is actually the one fighter that never say no to the fight. You never say no. You actually fought someone with 100-something fight. The Tiger fought, someone who has double, triple of your experience. So tell a little bit like what came to your mind when someone offered those high experience fighters to you?
I think I started Muay Thai probably a bit later. So I started Muay Thai at 25 and then I started probably fighting at 26. So I knew I wouldn't have a long time in the sport, a lot of the juniors start and things like that. And some of the times I'd be chasing those fights, I'd be asking, I'll just do it, it'll be fine. I always just wanted to, for me, it was never really about winning or losing or being the best in the world. It was never, and I know that is for some people, but that was never what it was about for me. I think fighting was always about me and what I could do, and I'd get offered those fights and I knew they'd be hard and I'd definitely be the underdog. But I was like, what if I won? You know what I mean? There was always what if I won, or if I don't win, does it even matter? I'm going to gain so much experience from that fight that will take me into the next fight or, fights to come. So I guess that's kind of how I always thought about it. And I never really just wanted to miss out on an opportunity. I didn't want to, especially at my weight division, it's a little bit more popular now than it was when I started out. But back then I just didn't really want to miss out on opportunities. There was girls in my weight division who maybe did wait for fights and they'd have to wait a long time for their next fight, whereas I was like, if I step up in experience or I step up in weight, I can fight now and then I'll have more fights later. Yeah. When I was an amateur, there was quite a few, some girls who probably aren't around anymore. I fought Rachel Kavanagh. I reckon that was probably only my 6th or 7th fight, and I fought her at Nationals. She'd had 15, maybe 20 fights, and I went up a weight division for that as well. So I was meant to fight at 48, and I ended up fighting at 51, and there was no one for either of us to fight, and I'd gotten all the way to Queensland, and I was my coach, Daz, said, do you want to fight her? And I was like, okay. And then after that, I fought Kelly Ramsbottom. She did have a fair few more fights than me as well. I went to Thailand. I fought a girl called Pornpan. I don't know how many fights she had, a couple of hundred at least. And that was on a big show in Thailand. That was on Super Champ. And then there was, I don't even know, there was more. There's definitely more. There was quite a few girls and I went up in weight, especially as an amateur. Probably not towards the end, but as an amateur, I fought up to 52 kilos, which at times I was walking around at 53, trying to keep weight on. And then more when I got pro, I probably stopped going up in weight and started sticking to a weight, and then still kind of took any fight that was presented.
Your weight division?
So I was fighting at 47.6 to 50. Yeah. So it was a small weight division.
Yeah. So how was your mindset coming into these fights? Because I know you took on really big names and people that have much more experience than you. How was your mindset going into these fights?
It really depended what fight it was. Sometimes my mindset would be really good and I'd be pretty optimistic and have a lot of self-belief. Other times, if I'd come off a couple of losses, I definitely had self-doubt. And I guess I just didn't really know, because I'd taken so many fights and I just take them and never say no. I never really knew any different. So I was like, oh, this is just what I do. So I definitely struggled at times, especially after a few big losses and things like that, where I'd be like, what am I doing? And I'd have like issues with self-belief, and I'd like stop trusting myself in there. And I did start working, like, definitely towards like my last 10 fights, started working on my mentality a lot more, and trying to do like self-talk and like things like that. Saw a sports psych.
Do you have any like examples of those hacks or tricks that you did during those times?
Yeah, so a lot of the time, like, there'd be times where I'd be like, I don't want to be at the gym, I don't want to do this, and then I try and turn it around and be like, actually, I'm choosing to do this. This is what I want to do. I don't have to do this. No one's forcing me. And I try and turn it around and be like, no, I want to be here. I'm so lucky to be able to do this. I'm not injured. I'm healthy. All those kind of things. So try and do self-talk. A lot of visualization as well. Visualization, yeah, like trusting myself in the ring, knowing that like I'd be on autopilot. Working with a sports psych as well. You know, he was really good. I guess in helping me try and believe in myself again, like, you know, self-talk on pads, self-talk in sparring. Like, I think I definitely struggled with my confidence in some fights, and that would show, I would get that in sparring as well, where I'd feel my confidence like going, and I'd have to just try and turn it around with self-talk or be like, it doesn't matter, just keep going. Yeah.
Mentioned just now about your sports cycle. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I haven't actually seen him in a couple of years, but I saw him for a couple of times. I think it was before I fought for my Australian title against Lucy Deadman. I just wasn't in a very good place mentally, and I wanted to make sure for that fight that I really did everything that I could do. And I don't think I ever had, like, I never had any trouble being like having that determination or that grit or that pushing. Like, that was never an issue for me. It was just that self-belief and that self-doubt. And I felt like if I didn't do something for that fight, that would kind of overcome me. And that would be my issue. And like, it was the confidence thing. Like, in a fight, like, if something happened, I could feel my confidence. I feel like a lot of fighters, you can see it sometimes as well. When you watch fights, you can see someone's confidence going down, someone's confidence going up when you watch fights. And I feel like I was like, I don't want that to happen. So that's why I went out and reached out to him, and saw him. Yeah.
So would you recommend that to the fighters?
I 100% would. I 100% would. I think it's really depends what kind of person you are as well. Like, some people can do their, you know, there's a lot of research on mentality now and sports mentality, you know, podcasts, a lot of things like that, which I think are really great. And if you're someone who can use that and that helps, perfect. But if you're someone who needs a little bit of extra, I think with females as well, I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's a male-dominated sport. Like, sometimes it's hard as a female just in society to just kind of believe in yourself anyway. There's a lot of judgment. There's a lot of stuff going on. You know, females, we're generally taught to kind of please everyone and, you know, like, you know, that kind of thing. So I think being a female and just struggling with my own confidence and just not, like, probably not only in fighting but just in life, I think seeing a sports psychologist really helped me. So I would recommend it to any fighters who have those issues.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, sports psychology has been, you know, it's been in our industry. I mean, like, sport field for so long.
Yeah.
But mainly not exactly to the fighters. They're more like field sport, soccer, players. Yeah, so do you think that make the difference? Like, because there's sports psychologists at other sports.
Yeah. So my sports psychologist, he had seen, so like AFL players, he'd seen tennis players, like, you know, so he'd seen people. So tennis players is a very single sport as well. So he'd seen people I think he'd seen boxers and stuff as well. And he'd been doing it a really long time. So he was really good at kind of delving in, asking me a lot of questions. Like, when we first had our first session, it was literally the whole time was just asking me questions. So he could kind of get an insight into what I needed and what I wanted. So I think if they're good and they kind of know their stuff, that's how they'll kind of get what they need from you. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, because I guess like in the sport, like, we don't think to get extra help for your mind, and like now it's only a new topic.
Yeah, it's only recently. Yeah.
Recently that I've heard people talking about like mindset coach or like psychologist.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah, I think it was definitely beneficial. But But even, you know what, even after seeing him, there's times I did still struggle. Like, it didn't mean it fixed my confidence forever, and I walked into every fight feeling great. So, but he definitely did. There's definitely tools that he gave me that have helped me still.
We also know that you moved to Thailand,
Yep.
sold all your stuff,
did.
and packed your bag, went to Thailand. Was it only just for fighting, or was there other things that was in the mix?
So the plan was just to train and fight, and kind of do a year over there, get some good opportunities, rack up some fights. Obviously, a lot of girls in Thailand are that same weight as me, like smaller girls.
Yep.
I was running out of people. Well, I didn't really have anyone to fight here anymore.
Yep.
And just, would just kind of fully focus on Muay Thai. So that was the plan. And then shortly before we moved, so we moved over in mid-November 2023, and I'd fought for a state title the month before. But then started October, a few weeks before that, I randomly just had my fertility tested for just like, I don't know, no reason, just to see where I was at. I was 32, knew I wanted to have kids. And then got like a really shocking diagnosis of like severe diminished ovarian reserve, which pretty much means that, you know, we're all born with like a certain amount of eggs, but my eggs were running out, and I was like similar to someone in their 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you found out that news, how did you feel?
It was not good. I was pretty devastated. I was kind of in shock, to be honest, because everything had always been normal. Like, I'd always had, even during fighting, might have had like the 1 or 2 random off periods, but my periods had always been normal. Never had any issues. So I was really shocked, and the doctor, like my GP, was really shocked as well. She was like, this is really unusual for someone your age. And I was also in fight camp for a state title, so I was like, this is not ideal. And then my partner and I they were like, you have to go see a fertility specialist straight away. So it was all very full on from like as soon as we found out.
And this was all during your fight camp?
This was all during my fight camp for my state title. So it was not good. There was one night I remember I had to go for like a follow-up test, and like came back and it was even worse than we thought. And I was like a mess. Like, I couldn't even get, like, I was just crying. Like, I just was like not coping. And I think my partner, he had to message my coach and be like, Dani, like, she can't come in. Like, I've never missed a training session. He was like, she can't come in. Like, I just couldn't be there. So I had that night off and just like went in the next day instead. And then I had to have a lot of tests during my fight camp. Which, like, at the point I was like, at the point, like, when I got all that news, I was like, do I even want to fight? Like, but I didn't want to pull out. It was a good opportunity. I hadn't fought in a while, and I'd come off like quite a few losses. And I'd I'd taken like 6 months off fighting and just trained and really put a lot of effort into kind of trusting myself to get back in the ring. After I had a fight 6 months before that was a really hard fight. And so I kind of wanted to do it for myself. So obviously I did the fight, and then we moved to Thailand, and our original plan was we'd go for a year and I'd rack up as many fights as I could. And it would probably be one of my last years. Like, I'd fight over there, come back here, have a retirement fight. And then obviously everything changed once we got the news. So I went over to Thailand, and I wasn't really ready to let go of fighting. It wasn't in my plans. So I was like, well,
what do you do?
What do I do? What do I do? So I continued to fight so I went to Thailand, I trained, I fought quite a few times. And in between those few fights I ended up having 2 miscarriages, which was super hard. And it was super hard being in a foreign country as well without your, I guess, your family and your friends support, like obviously over the phone, but it's a bit different, isn't it? And then after the second miscarriage, I wanted to fight again. I think I fought like 2 weeks after I had that last miscarriage. I look back now and I'm like, what was I doing? But I don't know. So I took that fight, and I remember the whole time I was like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And it was a bit of a reality check, and probably what I needed to get my priorities in line. And shortly after that fight, I got offered a really big fight on RWS, which I had said yes to.
Yeah.
We were waiting for a date, which we didn't think was going to be long. So I was like, cool, like it's not going to be long. It's like only one cycle of not trying. And then it just kept being further and further. And then I kind of had a bit of a breakdown and I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I was like, take my name off RWS. Like, I can't do it. And then I was like, I'm just going to focus on getting pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, which was kind of hard in Thailand because, like, you're there to fight and train, right? My partner, he was still fighting and training, which was fine. And we tried for a few more months, and because we got told if we didn't get pregnant in 6 months, we need to go straight to fertility treatment. Yep. And I'd done a lot of research and stuff. So we did a round of IVF. We did a round of IUI in Thailand, which failed. And then we did a round of IVF in Thailand, which also failed. And then I was like, I need to go home.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, it was hard because like people are like, why aren't you fighting? Why aren't you training? It's hard to get into like with Thais and things like going through that. Like they don't really know what that is.
Yeah.
I didn't really want like the world to know either at the time because you get a lot of opinions or unwarranted or unwanted opinions.
Yeah.
So yeah, we ended up coming home and I took a step back from fighting. And yeah, we had 2 more cycles of IVF at the end of the last year, which were also unsuccessful.
Yep.
So it was a pretty hectic year. And then luckily I fell pregnant naturally in January.
That's amazing.
Yay!
Thanks. Oh my God, what a journey.
What a journey.
Oh, so happy for you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. It's such a journey.
Yeah. They actually have like a group to support the IVF.
Yeah.
How tough it is. And you actually said on your Instagram post that it's actually one of the toughest thing you ever faced.
It is tougher than fighting. I think like with infertility, I think as a society, we probably don't talk about infertility enough. Just in general, I think, it's 1 in 6 couples who face it for various different reasons of why they might be going through infertility. I think as well, in a sport that's very physical and weight cutting and things like that, I think fertility for females should be, if you don't want to have kids, that's cool. But if you do, I think, they can't tell me that weight cutting or sport, was the cause of it and like it might have just been unlucky. But they were like, I got told by a fertility specialist, they were like, you need to put on weight. They were like, you're too lean. It's not good to conceive. Like, it's going to be harder for you to conceive. And just some tests, like, from when I was very lean to then when I did put on some weight, kind of showed that was the truth. My fertility got better as I put on a bit of weight and I wasn't so lean. So I think, like, taking care of your body as a female while you're fighting, doing weight cuts properly or not doing huge weight cuts, if you can help it, is, I don't know, I think you've got to think about if you do want children and even with everything, with injuries, life after Muay Thai, all those kind of things, I think you've really got to look after yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, and that actually comes to my next question.
Yeah.
The weight cutting.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. Like, was that one of your struggles?
Definitely one of my struggles. I used to be, before Muay Thai, I was quite overweight, and I'm quite short. So, like, when I started fighting, I was kind of told, like, you've even for my weight division now, which is very small, I'm still short. I was told, like, you're probably going to have to fight at a lighter weight, so you're not at a disadvantage, which makes sense. And then for maybe my first 10 to 12 fights, I did my nutrition pretty much by myself. It wasn't good. I was barely eating. I'd be cutting like 4 kilos in 2 days, which is a lot for someone my size. Just like, I was just like, there was just nothing of me. And I was like malnourished pretty much. And then it was a fight I had. I ended up, the only time I missed weight, I think by like 400 or 500 grams. It was after COVID because I'd put a lot of weight. Like, I used to yo-yo all the time with my weight, like a lot of us do. Cut weight, I'd put on a lot of weight, cut weight, do it, and then each time it got a little bit harder and harder. Every time I'd cut and then I'd rebound back. And then I remember I missed weight and I was like not in a good way. I was in the sauna all day. I was like in and out of consciousness, didn't feel good. And then, so I still fought, missed weight, had a shocking performance because I felt terrible. And then I made the decision to get a nutritionist and a strength coach. And after that, it got a lot better. I was feeling my body a lot better. I was still cutting weight like we all do, but I wasn't cutting nearly as much. And I was eating, like actually eating during fight camp instead of eating like a cup of rice and a piece of cheese a day. I was eating like a great amount of calories, and that definitely helped. But I think, you know, as an amateur, like, you know, when I was an amateur, I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't want to put maybe a lot of money into it, or and then as I was like, okay, well, like I've missed weight now, I don't want to go through that again. I need to make a change. Yeah.
That's biggest problem for fighters.
Biggest problem. Yeah. And then I think like body dysmorphia as well. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like I even like obviously when I wasn't cutting as much weight, still a bigger after you cut weight. I'd look in the mirror and I'd be like, I'm gross. You know, I'd like have I had different clothes from when I was fighting to when I wasn't fighting.
Me too.
Yeah.
You're the only one.
You know, if you know, you know. And then I think like during IVF, so like I got told to put on weight. And that was great. Like, I love eating. Who doesn't? So it was good, yeah. But also, foodies. Yeah, I was like, yeah, I love food. But during IVF, like with the injections and stuff, obviously it's a lot of hormones. There'd be times where I would be putting on 4 kilos in a week.
Whoa, yep.
It's a lot of fluid retention, a lot of stuff from hormones. And every cycle of IVF, so I'd put on weight. And then you kind of lose, like, after you finish that cycle, you might lose a couple of kilos. But every time you do a cycle, it's like your body retains a kilo or 2. So, like, I've put on 4 kilos. Now I've finished the IVF and the hormones. I've gone back and I've lost, like, 2 kilos have just gone. But that 2 kilos are still there. So every cycle I did, it was like I was just putting on, like, a little bit of weight each time. But, like, you know, 4 to 6 kilos is a lot of weight for someone small. And I was just, like, really uncomfortable in my, like, I was like, oh, my God. Like, and, like, people didn't know why I wasn't fighting. People didn't know why the weight was going on. And I was like, oh, like, it was all, like, I was like, people are going to think this about me. Because it's all in your own head, right? No one cares. And then when I got pregnant, obviously I've put on weight now. And my body's changing, like, quite drastically. And, yeah, I'm just, like, sometimes I'm really awful to myself. I'm like, you're really fat. And then my partner, he's like, you're pregnant. Like, he's like, you're growing a human being. Isn't that pretty amazing? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess that's pretty cool that my body can do that. But I get even, like, I go to the obstetrician. They're like, okay, jump on the scales. And I'm like, ugh. And then, like, obviously every time it goes up. And they're like, that's great. And I'm like, that's great. Is that's okay? And they're like, yeah, it's great. Good. Like, and I'm like, okay. Which is really strange because no one ever tells you in Muay Thai that it's great to put on weight, right?
I think it's awful that, like, all the female fighters has to kiss and then, you know, actually be normal. Because what they said is like, what, females should have 20% body fat. That's healthy, but because we're fighters, we need to be as low as possible, and that affects our body in the long term that we actually think about.
Yeah, I think it affects your body long term. I think it also affects, like, mentally.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're like, and even like I might have been, you know, let's say I fought at 48, I might have been walking around at 53 sometimes, and I'd be like, I'm so fat. Yeah. And I'm like, my partner James was like, you're 53 kilos. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah. You know, it comes to the point that is like, fighting career, it's just that period of time of your life, right? You need to think about if you want to have a baby, you want to have a family, actually have to... You have to think about the future. And yeah, because I hear a lot of, like, younger girls in Muay Thai who, like, haven't had their period for 6 months or haven't had, like, you know, and I'm like, I never had that issue, and I still had fertility issues and, like, you know, just unlucky or whatever, but I'm like, surely not having a period for 6 months isn't a good thing, you know? And I think a lot of the time when you're fighting... I don't know about you guys, but when you're fighting, like when you've got a fight coming, it's everything. Yeah. Your life is around it. Everything that goes wrong seems like such a big deal that wouldn't normally be a big deal. You are moody. You just, like, it is your life and it's everything. And it's sometimes hard to see outside of that.
and it's hard to see the future. You just want to get through that fight, and then you don't really think about what you're doing to your body or what the long-term effects might be because you're really in it for that moment. That's what I think anyway. Yeah.
What do you think about it now? If you can tell the younger generation about the weight cutting side of things?
I think if I could go back, I would have a nutritionist from day one. I would also maybe like spend some time with a nutritionist for a while instead of cutting weight straight away and building up my calories while getting lean. Because it takes a while. Like if you start Muay Thai, it takes a while for your body to change. Your body composition changes and things the more athletic you get. So I'd spend a bit of time like working on trying to get my calories up and being able to be at a good weight and just not cutting a lot. Like I wouldn't, I don't think even if I come back and fight now, I'd probably come back and fight heavier. And I'd take that disadvantage of being shorter maybe, and just fight a little bit heavier. And the times that I did fight heavier, because there were times that I did fight at 52 and stuff like that, I felt better. Like I felt stronger. I felt like I could eat more. I felt good. So, maybe take that disadvantage to feel a bit better. Yeah.
You know what? But I think because everyone's trying to cut.
That's what I mean.
So if everyone don't cut.
Let's stop cutting.
That'll be better.
Same size. Yeah. Because there was the point at if I did fight at 52 or 53, I'd be fighting girls who are walking around at 60 to 65, which even when I used to blow out, the most I'd ever get to was 56. So I was like, well, they're big girls. They're big girls compared to me. So, yeah, I think I would probably just go back and spend more time with a nutritionist, not try and rush the process, because I think a lot of us try and rush the process. We're like, okay, we've got to fight in 6 weeks. I've got to cut this weight. Okay, we've got to cut the calories. I think spending time building up your calories, not getting to know your body and how it works, because everyone's so different with weight cutting and how their body, you said you lose weight quite easy. I don't know about you. Joe doesn't either, but we're all so different. So I think spending time knowing your body, getting a nutritionist to know your body would be my advice. Yeah.
Another question that I have for you is, who inspired you during your fight career? It could be a fighter, it could be someone in your family or what in your life. Who would it be?
Who would it be? Oh, it's a hard one because there's a couple of people.
Yeah, you can name a couple.
Okay, so first of all, I would feel like just a general would be any fighter, to be honest. Anyone in the gym that I think I train with, people who push really hard, really inspire me. Just being around other fighters, I think, inspires me because it's hard. It's really hard, and having other people there kind of pushing, doing the same thing as you inspires me. Also, my partner, obviously, we've only been together a few years, but he's a fighter as well. He really inspires me as well. He's a super hard worker. He never complains, not like me. So he's super inspiring. And then probably my older sister.
Yeah.
So she's not a fighter, but she's got 2 kids. She has a very high-powered job. She still manages to be a really great sister, a great friend, a great mum, great at her job, which is all a bit chaotic. And, yeah, she still just manages to be kind of the best person she can be. So that really inspires me to kind of go forward.
Like, how do you juggle all you got a full-time job? Yeah. And then how do you fit your fight camp and your routine? Tell us a little bit about that.
Like most fighters, barely juggle it. Right? Yeah. So my job where I'm working full-time, so we did longer days. We did 4 days a week, but long days. So it'd be like 8 to 5:30 or 8 to 6:30. So a long day. So I'd usually have to run in the morning. I'd get up at 5. And then sometimes I'd do my strength after, just before work as well. Work all day. I'd have to just make sure all my food was ready. I'd have to food prep everything on Sunday. And then I'd go straight to the gym after, train, and then come home and do it all again. I do a lot of stuff on my day off. The day off I had during the week. but I feel like I barely managed it. I had to be very organised. That was the key. Like, everything had to be, like, if I didn't do a food prep Sunday, I wouldn't have food for the whole week. You know, so everything had to be, like, lined up to a T. I had to know, like, you know, obviously my nutritionists were really good. Like, everything had to be, like, I knew what I was eating. I just had to kind of fit everything in and just make it work.
What about recovery? What do you do?
So recovery I'd used to do on a Thursday and a Sunday. So I'd finish work at 6:30 on a Thursday and just go down to the sauna, do a bit of sauna and pool. And then
That's after the training on Thursday.
Thursday was our day off training, but I used to run. I'd run and do stuff Thursday morning generally, and then Thursday night we'd have off. That was our one night off a week. And then after training on Saturday, I'd usually get a massage, and then Sunday do sauna and ice bath or whatever again. Yeah. So I always used to have a massage every week, like 5 weeks out from a fight, because like my body was just, you know, bad. You know. So that's kind of how I guess I just barely juggled it. I didn't have a social life. And I'm very lucky, like, as I said, James is a fighter as well. Very lucky I had a partner who fought as well. So he got it. You know, it would be hard if we were fighting at the same time. Both be grumpy. Yeah, like, you know.
But I guess that's one good thing, right? Because you both are fighters, so you should understand.
Yeah, he was,
Moodiness.
yeah, understand the moodiness. And then, like, if one of us wasn't fighting and like James is fighting in a few weeks, I know what it's like. I'm obviously pregnant, so, like, I'm just chilling. Yeah, I'm helping him. So, like, obviously, like, I'm doing most of the household chores, making sure he's got food, like, getting up and walking our dog in the morning. So, like, just trying to do as much as I can so he doesn't have to think about anything kind of thing. Yeah. So that's helpful.
So, in fight camps, do you know how much you spend in a fight camp in a week? Have you ever done the calculations? I know this is like a... People don't know how much we spend on our fight camp, but I just want to, like, share it to everyone. Like, we spend a lot of money.
Yeah. Spend, like, you know, you got your gym membership. Mm-hmm. You got your strength and conditioning and nutrition membership.
Yep.
You've got your any time off work you need on fight week, which is to cut weight and stuff, because sometimes you got to take annual leave. Mm-hmm. So that's like your annual leave taken as well.
Yep.
Food, which is
Mm-hmm.
generally like, sometimes if I wasn't doing food prep, I'd get someone to do food prep for me, which is more expensive. Mm-hmm. Massage, recovery,
Yep.
PTs.
Yep.
Yeah, easily anywhere from like $500 to $800 a
Yep.
week,
Yep.
easily, which you do not make back.
No. And we don't get... How much roughly do we get paid? Would it cover that?
Nowhere near.
Yeah,
Nowhere near. Unless you're on one we
do it for the love of the
Unless you're
sport.
on one championship or something, maybe.
Knockout bonus.
Yeah, the old knockout 50K, but no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So it is all for the love of the sport. It's definitely not for money.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
What do your parents or your family think about your fighting?
My sister, she was actually talking about the other day, because I've fought over in Melbourne before and I've been staying with her and I've cut weight at her house, and she was like, oh. She was like, what are you doing? And she was like, oh, and like I was trying to, and then they were asking about James cutting weight, like my sister, her friend and her husband, and like, how do we do it? And they were like, how do you lose that weight in that? They just don't understand, right? And my sister's like, that's so weird. And I was like, yeah. But she's very supportive. Yeah, she loves it. My mum is pretty supportive. Yeah, I feel like they don't have an issue with it. So, yeah, but I think they're just like, oh, you're fighting again, you know? Yeah. My partner's parents, so my in-laws, his mum's a bit like, when are you going to stop? Don't do this. Like, she gets very nervous. Yeah, so, but they're pretty cool about it.
Okay. Okay, my last question, Danny, would be if you could say something to the next generation. Obviously, we talk a little bit about weight cut, but this one is just anything in your fighting career. If you could say something to the next generation, what would it be?
Be a couple of things maybe. Just toughen up a little bit. I feel like it's hard. It's a hard sport. It's not easy. And you've just got to just do it. I don't know. You just got to do the hard things because they make you better. And I think for me, taking all the opportunities you can take. I think, you have such a short period of being an athlete or being a fighter. We can't do it forever. Like our bodies obviously don't allow us to. So take every opportunity you can because, I know different fighters have different views of what they want to do, and I totally understand that. So, if you want to be the best in the world and build yourself up, sure, I get you might not take every fight, but I don't think it's a detriment if you do take a fight you think you're going to lose. Or you might not that you think you're going to lose. You've always obviously got some self-belief in yourself, but that, you might not be the favourite for. I think it's really important just to take every opportunity you can because you don't know how long you're going to be able to do it. You don't know when you're going to get injured. You don't know when, obviously I've had to take a step back and that wasn't something that I had planned on, but I'm actually so happy that I took every opportunity because, I had 27 fights in 7.5 years. And if I didn't take every opportunity, I would have had at least half that. Do you know what I mean? If I'd said no to a lot of these fights, I wouldn't have gotten to fight that much. And I 100% know I would have regretted that.
Yeah. Especially back in the day, in our days, it's really hard to get a match up. And now there's so many platforms,
Yeah, so many more female fighters, which is awesome.
Yeah,
which is awesome.
Totally. That's such a good advice. Yeah, but thank you so much, Dani. The thing that you actually said or share with us here, we really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys. Thank you.
That, you could share that in every day. So appreciate that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And
on to the next episode. Thank you so much for jumping on. Please like and subscribe our channel. We really appreciate that. If you want more fighters on our podcast, please like.
Yeah, like.